حتى يشهدوا أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا رسول الله, translated into Urdu and Farsi language. If you actually know these languages, you will find out that most of the book bid you to fight who are fighting you. So Allah actually is giving a command. That's from the Quran, Surah the Arabs. He says the Arabs were from the nature, and this is the nature of the Arabs. If you do not keep on fighting. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, there is no way that these people, one person is killed when they're entering Fatah Makkah. So that is one of the things. So understand, the word uqatilu are in power, and when there's a leader there, when there's a qada there, when there's a khalifa there, and he's commanding all of the things. Okay, bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, rahmatika arhamar rahimin. So inshallah we'll begin in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we send our blessings and salutations upon Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we also thank the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala ajma'een. Allah, my brothers, I always say this, the Sahaba is very special people. And I always say it, subhanAllah, it's kind of like my punchline. Regardless of what I am saying, I tell you as well that Sahabas were really special people, and me and you, we should actually work hard to follow their examples. And if we are able to follow one of their examples, that we should be successful in this dunya and akhirah. Also understand, Sahabas are not ma'soomeen. They're the ones who actually also had mistakes as well, and the Prophet corrected them, but they were the best of the nation, so we should be like them. Now I have two agendas today, and both are quite controversial. One of the agendas is the hadith from Sahih Muslim, which is Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, which actually I will take right at the end, which is about al-nasakh wal-mansukh. So basically Abu Musa al-Ash'ari is saying that I was made to forget particular surah of the Quran. So that's where people like Mr. Woods and other people, they come and they attack Quran, that Quran is not in its entirety. But also before that, the hadith that we have today is also used by stringent groups to actually wage war against the entire nations, and they use that hadith for their advantage. So understand, we do not shy away. This hadith is a sahih hadith. And inshallah today we're going to learn some Arabic terminology and rules as well in order to understand this hadith, inshallah. Now the hadith is number 8, and it is from Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, which you all know the name. So inshallah, if I was to test you, who's Ibn Umar?
Abdullah ibn Umar.
MashaAllah, very good. Okay, so you guys made it. Alright, inshallah the hadith is and Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma. Now understand, anhuma, when it's used, it's either used for the ones who, the father and the person who is narrating, they both are Muslims. Or it is used for multiple Sahabas in the hadith as well, because anhuma actually is a plural. So that's why it's used in that regard. He says, Anna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And what does he say? Umirtu, this is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saying, Umirtu an uqatil al-nasa hatta yashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah wa yuqimu as-salata وَيُؤْتُوا الزَّكَاةَ فَإِذَا فَعَلُوا ذَلِكَ أَصَمُوا مِنِّي دِمَاؤُهُمْ وَأَمْوَالُهُمْ إِلَّا بِحَقِّ الْإِسْلَامِ وَحِسَابُهُمْ عَلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. Now, hadith actually starts off saying that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying, I have been ordered to fight against the people. And nas, okay, there's a quite open hadith. Does not say mushrikun, does not say the Jews, does not say the Christians, does not say this nation or that nation. It says, I have been ordered to fight against the people. That's just open hadith over here. Until they testify there is none worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the last and final messenger. Until they establish Salah as well, until they pay Zakah as well, and if they do so, then I will have gained protection for them. and their lives and their property unless they commit a punishable offense. So what is that? فَعَلُوا ذَلِكَ أَصَوْا مِنِّي دِمَاؤُهُمْ وَأَمْوَالُهُم. So it's upon me to protect their money, and it's upon me to protect their blood. إِلَّا بِحَقِّ الْإِسْلَامِ. Unless they go against Islam, or they do something against Islam, then actually practice had on them in accordance to Islam, and the reckoning is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now subhanAllah, this hadith, you need to understand what people say, and that's mashallah, you guys are coming out and giving your time as well. May Allah bless you. When you read this hadith, you can't say to someone, oh, I know the hadith. You actually don't know the hadith. This in Arabic is called matan. Matan actually means a text. I've only narrated the text. I have not even given you the explanation. One of the best explanation of this hadith is actually given by Imam Rajab al-Hanbali. Imam Rajab al-Hanbali actually wrote a book which is called Jami' al-Ulum bil-Hikam, or Jami' al-Ulum al-Hikam. So basically this is an entire commentary of Ibn Rajab on the Imam Nawawi's 40 hadith. Now this book is already translated. You can actually get your hands on the book. Now understand, if you understand Arabic, if you don't understand Arabic, if you understand Urdu language has the most translation of the treasures of Arabic after Arabic language. So most of the narrations actually, most of the work has been translated into Urdu and Farsi language. If you actually know these languages, you will find out that most of the books are there. For example, Fath al-Bari. Fath al-Bari does not have an English commentary. Fath al-Bari is over 20 volumes. It's actually a commentary of Imam Bukhari's hadith. It's over 20 volumes. And if you know Urdu, it's actually in Urdu language over 32 volumes. So if you know that, who wrote Fath al-Bari? Does someone want to make a guess? Very good. Imam Hajar al-Asqalani actually wrote Fath al-Bari. And so that's the book he wrote, and that is a commentary of the entire Sahih Bukhari. So for example, like Jami' al-Ulum al-Hikam actually is done into English as well, but it's not done in a way how the Imam Rajab al-Hanbali actually wrote this book. It's not done in that particular way. Now understand, now is your time inshallah to understand. When you read the word umirtu and umirna, these words in Arabic are completely different to each other. Umirtu actually is a direct command to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the word umirna comes, the Sahaba are saying the Prophet ordered us. This hadith, the Sahaba is narrating word by word. What does he say? Umirtu. So the Prophet has been commanded. Now also understand, you need to understand there are something in Islam called hasa'is. Does anyone know what hasa'is means? Hasa'is actually means particularities only for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Special things, hasa'is for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Can someone give me a hasa'is for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Very quickly. Something that's only for the Prophet.
Last Prophet.
Last Prophet, I mean, that's understandable. Was something only Prophet was commanded. No, we are not commanded. I know the men love marrying. Okay, I gave you half of it.
What's the limit from going to Prophet to get something like that, to get married without like a dowry?
More than 3.
Yeah, so you could say that, but this is a good one. More than 4 is only for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another hasa is for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Your wife is not the mother of the believers. Okay?
Yes.
So don't think your wife is the mother of the believers. Your wife is only the mother of your children. Okay, when it comes to Aisha, she's the mother of the believers. And that's a hasa'is for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there are a few things that were given to Prophet, not given to us. So that's like when the word comes umirtu, that also falls in the category of hasa'is. Okay, this is the word that you need to. And also, the word also now understand in Arabic language, uqatilu, the word actually comes from the verb tafa'ul. So who knows what the word tafa'ul means?
Explain.
Tafa'ul is actually between two, and the word uqtila or qutila is actually a word which is engaged with one person. There's only one perpetrator. So the word over here is used umirtu an uqatilu. So there is an action between two people. So the ones who are fighting with me, I have been commanded to fight back to him. An uqatil. Okay, that is the word uqatilu, comes from the word which is tafa'ul. Tafa'ul means there are two people involved in the action. It's not a one-way action. So it's not qatila or like, or qutila that you're fighting. Like for example, when the word in this is Surah Mumtahana, you all know this surah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم. لم يقاتلوكم. Okay, that Allah does not forbid you to fight who are fighting you. So Allah actually is giving a command. That's from the Quran. Surah Mumtahana is mentioned over there. في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم. And the ones who actually kick you out of their houses, you're allowed to fight them. أقاتل, okay? So تقاتل أقاتل. So this is the word. يقاتلوكم أقاتل. So you're fighting two people. If they come and attack you, that's when you are allowed to attack them as well. This is something called defensive. Okay, that's a defensive rule. Also understand in surah, this hadith is mentioned by Imam Bukhari and also by Imam Muslim. It is mentioned by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim. Also this hadith is mentioned by Imam Ibn Nisa'i as well. What does An-Nisa'i mention this hadith? What does he replicate the word? What does he replace the word An-Nasa with? The word An-Nasa is Umirtu an uqatil al-mushrikeen. So the word mushrikeen is used in the narration of An-Nisa'i. So also we understand that the context is given over here. The context is that these are the mushrikun that were fighting with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and these were the mushrikun in the time. Now Imam Hatim al-Hajj, who's a very famous scholar from America, is a really good scholar from Hanbali madhab. He actually talks about the Arabs. He says the Arabs were from the nature, and this is the nature of the Arabs. If you do not subdue them, they will keep on fighting. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, there is no way that these people will be accepting Islam. So if you ask them and they come and accept Islam, great. And if they do not accept Islam, then you fight them. And if you look at the Battle of Hunayn, that was again with the mushrikun, and also Fatah Makkah, when he came back, he actually fought with these people as well, although the battle was not fought, and only one person, it was a little skirmish where Khalid bin Walid, actually not Khalid bin Walid, the son of what's his name, Abu Jahl, what was the name of his son? Ikrimah, very good. So Ikrimah actually has a skirmish, and one person is killed when they're entering Fatah Makkah. So that is one of the things. So understand, the word uqatilu, which is used now to debunk that as well, you need to understand these hadith cannot work without context. You need to, whenever these hadith they come, you have to actually know the context as well. You can't just narrate the matan of the hadith and then you can say, oh, this is what the Prophet said. That's why the groups like Daesh and the groups like ISIS, they use these hadith, and our younger people as well. You need to understand these hadith are also talking about when the Muslims are in power, and when there's a leader there, when there's a qada there, when there's a khalifa there, and he's commanding all of the things. Not from the masjid that we sit in and we take these hadith literally. It doesn't work like that. Also understand, when it comes to the Jews, the Prophet had the treaty with them. We all know from Medina. Now looking at the context, going back to the seerah, the Prophet had the treaty with them. Also with the mushrikun, the Prophet had the treaty with them. That was the treaty of Hudaybiyah. So you know the treaty of Hudaybiyah. Also, you need to understand, Prophet, after establishment of the Islamic State, and when Abu Bakr came in power after the battle of Ridda, which we are going to come, which is yuqimu salata wa yu'tu zakata, which we are going to come inshallah, we'll speak about that. But also understand, after they've done that, there were the zimmis that were living in the time of the Muslims as well, and that's mentioned in Surah At-Tawbah. So people clearly, the ayah is mentioned over there that you do not fight the ones who are actually giving you jizya, and this is from the Ottoman time as well that we've seen that. The ayah number is 29. It says قَاتِلُوا الَّذِينَ, so قَاتِلُوا الَّذِينَ, so you actually go and fight لَا يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَلَا بِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ, and the ones who actually do not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and also do not believe in the last day. وَلَا يُحَرِّمُونَ مَا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولَهُ, and they do not actually, whatever Allah has made haram, they do not make that haram. So it's an entire ayah is coming down and talking about that. And what did it say after that? الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ حَتَّى يُؤَتُّوا الْجِزْيَةَ, the ones until all the ones they are giving you jizya, أَن يَعِدَّ وَهُمْ صَاغِرُونَ, and you actually, they pay you jizya, then they become at the lower level because now they are under your protection. And Islam actually clearly says that the ones who give you jizya, they're the ones who do not have to fight. Islam clearly says that if there's a nation that's given you jizya, you protect them and you look after them, you go on a battle for them. So Rasulullah clearly said that no zimmi will actually go and fight. That's a clear ruling there for the Muslims, that we do not take the zimmi to fight. We only take who? We take the believers to fight. And this is a clear indication as well. Also, you need to understand this hadith. Some scholars also said this hadith is da'if, but it doesn't work like that. See, when Quran comes, and we've spoken about this principle in the earlier time, if Quran comes with the ayah which actually is in conflict with the hadith, you actually take the rule of the Quran over it. What's the best ayah that you can think of? One of the easy ayahs that you can think of, that there is no compulsion in religion. What's that ayah you can think of quickly? La ikraha fi din. If you look at this ayah is quite contradictory to the hadith. La ikraha fi din. There is no compulsion in religion. So understand, this ayah, this hadith only came down for the mushrikun of that time, and Rasulullah was commanded to fight. Yes, there are the lessons for us to extract from this. It doesn't mean that we can negate this hadith and say, but understand, some hadith are for specific times. This hadith was for a very specific time when the mushrikun were waging war on Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also it is applicable to our time as well. Why? When someone wages war on you, then you have the right to protect yourself, to defend yourself, and to go out. Also, Islam is allowed to go on offensive war as well. That's something that we learn from Surah Nisa. When you find out that there are innocent people being killed, and you have the power on the land, then you go and fight. And subhanAllah, one of the things just came to mind as well. When you look at these people, particularly the Western people, they always say, Islam, you guys are blood mongers and you go and you fight. But when you look at even the modern time as well, they come and help their allies. They come and provide them with ammunition. They come and do whatever they want. And they say, you know why? Because we are coming to establish peace on earth. And that's the way we establish peace. And if you look at Iraq war, they were establishing peace on the earth. And if you look at Afghanistan war, they were establishing peace on the earth. So all these wars that you see, the Crusaders, and when it comes to them, it's okay. Why? Because they're establishing peace on the earth. When it comes to Islam, and they're taking a stance according to the Sharia, and also understand, and this is something that you can write down, Islam has amazing rights when it comes to war as well. There's about 10 rights, it clearly says. And Rasulullah clearly said, when it came to the hadith, it's in Musnad Imam Ahmad, the extract of that is taken, the first right of a combatant. If you are in there, if you are fighting with someone, you do not punish them with fire. Never. Because this is clearly in the hadith. Punishment by fire is only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and by no one. And today the hypocrisy of the West, they punish by chemical bombs, and the civilians, not alone. We're not even talking about the combatants. We're talking about the civilians they punish by fire. As a clear indication, Islam says do not punish by fire. Protection of the wounded. Islam clearly says if someone is attacked and is wounded, then do not go and kill him. Today you see they massacre people, the ones who are wounded as well. Islam says to actually take care of the wounded. Point number 3, the prisoners of war should not be slain, should not be killed. If you've actually got someone and you've actually caught someone in the war, the ones who were fighting, the combatants, then you do not kill them. It's their right. It's the right under the United Nations as well, the Geneva Convention as well. If someone's a prisoner of war, you're not allowed to kill them. They have to go through the court of law and the justice will be done to them according to that. Islam clearly shows that there is no killing of the prisoners of war. And no one should be tied to be killed. So if you've actually got someone, you should not tie them, because now they become the prisoner of war. You should never tie someone to kill them, because that is cowardice. Now you're not fighting with someone. We saw images, subhanAllah, and I remember you've seen it as well. Last year they saw images where people were blindfolded and their hands were tied at the back and they were put in their underpants, naked, in severe conditions, and they were tied. And later on what happened we all know. So Islam is saying we're not even allowed to do that. If you've tied someone, he's become the prisoner of war. You never tie someone to kill them, never. That's cowardice. Okay, so this is also the Prophet has prohibited. Yes,
what is this like tied up but you use it for execution?
That's a different story. We're talking about tying someone and then killing you. That's a different story. If you're hanging someone, that is kind of like there's it's like a procedure of when you put someone on the rope, then you have to make sure that the hands are tied at the back, or else he will try to hold the rope and he will try to cut himself loose. That's something else. And these hanging practices are not Islamic practices. This was actually a Western practice that they started to be hanged till death. It's not even our practice. Our practice of had, when we kill someone, we kill them in one go. And when we strike hard, which was actually chopping the head off. And that was Islamic practice. Even when you hang someone, it's actually punishing someone. Islam says even if you put someone to death, has to be done swiftly. Like even when we slaughter the animal, we cut it swiftly so that the animal does not suffer. That's why likewise with the one who is being punished to death, it's his right not to suffer. Yes?
Basically another way of showing mercy.
That's right. That's very good. So moving on, no looting and destruction in the enemy's country. That's Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam click. And the hadith of Dawood ibn Abi Dawood is that the Prophet has prohibited the believers from loot and plunder and pillaging. So basically, if you go somewhere, you're not to destroy their structures, their churches, their mosques or whatever. You're not to destroy their buildings, their dwellings. You don't do that. This is Islam does not say to do any of that. Islam, no looting. If you see people in their houses, we do not loot. We do not go and we do not attack those people. Okay? So also sanctity of the property. So this is another one. So the Prophet Abu Bakr Siddiq instructed the Muslims when they were being dispatched for the battlefield for Yamama. He clearly said that do not go and take their cattle. Do not attack their houses. If they're in their houses, they're in our protection. Only fight the ones who are fighting you. And subhanAllah, today we see the sanctity of the property is lost. People are bombed when they're in their houses. And they say this is the way. They call Islam barbaric. Islam has conditions even when you go on a fight. Islam has those conditions. So moving on, number 7, sanctity of the dead body. We actually do not go and, derile the dead bodies. And we do not actually open them up and take the internals out like it happened in the time of the Battle of Uhud. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually pledged that he will do that to the 30 bodies, because his uncle was lying over there, and that was a difficult time for him. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayahs, if you want to take revenge, then you take the way people have avenged you. So that should be exactly the same way. But then he also said, if you can't do that, because no one can actually say that I've hurt him the same way he's hurt me. So Allah says after that, then forgive. That is better. And then he forgave all of them. And you know, all the perpetrators. SubhanAllah, I recently said that in a lecture as well. If it comes to us, if we sometimes understand Allah forgave the worst of the tyrants and the enemies as well. So don't be judgmental. Sometimes we become very judgmental. We see someone in the masjid and we see this guy is that, this guy is that. You never know, he might change towards the end. You look at Hind, you look at Wahshi, you look at Abu Sufyan, you look at all these guys, how they changed their lives and they became the Sahabas. We all respect them later on. Also, return of the corpses of the enemy. So if you have the dead bodies of the enemy, you actually return them back. Let alone that you see people and you see these Zionists, they take out the corpses from the graves and they desecrate them. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is clearly saying that when you are fight, I do not sell the dead bodies and I do not desecrate the dead bodies and I do not celebrate the dead bodies. So if there are any one that's dead, he actually gives the dead bodies back to them as well. That's from Islam. Also, prohibition of breach of treaties. Now, a very good example I can give you. The Turks were in the Treaty of 100 Years. Sultan Hamid III, actually when the Khilafah was toppled, that's why the Turks never went and fought anyone. That's what you call Islamic. I'm not saying the leader in any way or form, I'm endorsing him. I have my own ifs and buts about him, but I'm saying this is what Islam is. We uphold the treaties. If you've actually taken a treaty with someone, we uphold that treaty. And the perfect example is the son of Suhail ibn Amr, what was his name? So he was in Salah al-Hudaybiyah. He actually came running to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he had signed the treaty. And then Suhail said, "You've signed the treaty, you can't take him, because you said if anyone becomes a Muslim and he comes to you, you have to return them back." So I'm forgetting his name. His name was Abu something. Starts with a Jandal, that's it. Abu Jandal was his name, and he actually gave him back. And that was a treaty. That's how Muslims are. Can you imagine in the midst of that, Rasulullah could have said, "No, I'm not going to give him back." But he actually gave him back. And that's also, we do not breach our treaties. Rules about the declaration of war, and it's mentioned in the Quran as well. If anyone breaches the treaty, then you go and fight them. And also when you see the Muslims are being persecuted, then you go and fight people. And when you see there is aggression on the land and the people's rights are being taken, then you go and fight them. And so these are some of the things that we've spoken about. So all in all, Islam also says that to fight the people who are spreading corruptions amongst the Muslims as well. So the example is very clear. When Abu Bakr as-Siddiq fought the people when they were not giving the zakat, and he actually said that he will go and fight all of them, and he went on a war with the people, and that was called the Harb al-Rida. So they were the ones who actually broke the treaties of zakat, and he went and fought them. And this is also mentioned in the ayah, and we use this ayah as well between Abu Sufyan, Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, and also Ali radiallahu anhu. There was a battle there, you all know Siffin, you all know the battle of Jamal as well, you all know the battle of Nahrawan as well. So the battle of Siffin was between Muawiyah and also Ali radiallahu anhu. Many Sahabas died. We're speaking about 25,000 Sahabas actually lost their lives, and they're both Muslims on both sides. That's a lot of people that died in the battle. Ali radiallahu anhu later on just signed a treaty with him, and he said that if it was not for the spilling of the Muslim blood, I would have gone on, because there was not, the people were just falling like flies, and it was just going on. And this is mentioned in Surah Hujurat as well, and that's why we believe that Ali radiallahu anhu, his army was on the right, and Abu Sufyan, Muawiyah radiallahu anhu's army was not on the right. But it does not give us the right to, to go after Muawiyah. You need to understand they both were alims and they both did ijtihad. If you get the ijtihad right, you get the 2 rewards, and if you don't get it right, you still get 1 reward. And they were both fighting, and they both had the causes. We don't have the time to actually speak about the cause right now. The ayah is وَإِن طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَلُوا فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا. That when you see among the believers, when they are fighting, then you make a settlement between the two. But if فَإِن بَغَتْ إِحْدَهُمَا عَلَى أُخْرَى, then if you see one have oppressed the others, now if there is no sulh which is happening, then it says فَقَاتِلُوا الَّتِي تَبْغِي حَتَّى تَفِي إِلَى أَمْرِ اللَّهِ. Then you fight them until they return to the ordinance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's a clear indication there. You actually go and fight them as well. So what is it saying? وَإِن طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. So actually speaking about the 2 believers over here. طَائِفَتَانِ. It's not طَائِفَتَانِ. Tani means 2. So it's speaking about the 2 parties of the believers. So that's also a thing. Now on that note, very quickly, what you guys are seeing unfolding at the moment with HTS, which is Hayyat Tahrik al-Sham, which is at the moment, which you just saw, HTS, which is, I forget the name of the leader, Zulaini. Yes, so no, it's Julaini, sorry, Julaini with the G. So Julaini actually is the leader of HTS, and he was from, see, understand, the media always likes to call people extremists and that and that. So right now the media is saying that there's Sunni extremist groups. Now Julaini actually had severed his ties in 2017 from ISIS, and Julaini actually made a more of a forces that were called the resistance forces, and he made it with the Kurdish people and the other people. So what we are seeing unfolding, Homs actually is being taken now, Helb has been taken as well, Aleppo, which you guys know the English name, and now they're on the borders of Damascus. And the news, when I was driving over here, when I was listening to it, Bashar actually has left Syria and he's run away now. So that's what happens, these tyrants, when they have been taking and oppressing the people for such a long time, people cause that resistance. That's exactly like the resistance force that we saw in Palestine. And they were resisting for their rights against the oppressive rulers and the oppressive regimes. And when they go and they try to take their rights, and you see what the media does, and they portray them as bloodmongers and whatnot, which you've seen. And so as we are seeing, this also is not a good news for all these tyrants who have been sitting over there, and they are all scared now, because understand, Syria has a very special position, Bilad al-Sham. It's actually right at the north of the Middle East, the Arabian Peninsula, and also Turkey is just above them. And on the left hand side is Lebanon and Israel, and on the right hand side is Iraq, and also on the south as well. And so this is where they're going into Saudi Arabian territory and all that. So whatever's unfolding, we are seeing there's a change. And subhanAllah, sometimes we do not understand the hikmah of Allah. Well, it all started from that bloody war against the Palestinians, and they were being killed. And all of a sudden we saw the resistant movement in Bangladesh, and after that we saw this resistant movement in Syria as well. And wallahu alam, where it takes us, we only ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy. Now coming back to the hadith again, this is clearly the hadith that we said it was for a very specific time. And also, if it's not for this specific time, if you want to generalize the hadith as well, you can take it towards our times as well, when there is oppression happening. Islam allows offensive war as well. Islam allows defensive war as well. Everyone allows that. And I've given you many examples on that as well. Now, moving on, let's move to this part, which can become kind of controversial as well. When you say, okay, we're not fighting, people are giving jizya, but then why did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says وَيَقُومُ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُ الزَّكَاةَ? A person that's a non-believer is not going to pray, he's not going to give zakah. Also understand, in the time of Rasulullah, when he was fighting the mushrikun, and today you will hear some of the narration that you've probably heard it before, but I believe that most of you have not heard it. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the hadith of Al-Bayhaqi clearly mentions that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked by the mushrikun when they were overpowered. A man came to Rasulullah and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I pledge allegiance to you, but the only thing I can do after believing in you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I can only pray 2 prayers. That's it. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted his allegiance and he said, you can go. Now, Shaykh Salih al-Uthaymeen was asked, only 2 prayers? What about the other 3? He said, when someone comes to Islam, he can put a condition which is haram on it. His Islam is not batil, but the condition is batil. But Islam will enable him to become and to change his narrative later on in his life. So that's why when someone becomes a Muslim, you don't tell him, brother, tomorrow you're fasting, and also you're finishing the Quran as well, and make sure you're back in the Fajr Salah as well. He's not going to come back. He's going to say, you know what? This is my time to run away. So you need to understand, when people come to Islam, they can come with a batil condition. Okay, that condition does not need to be the right condition. He can come with that condition, but Islam, this is what Shaykh Salih al-Uthaymeen later on, he says, he's accepted Islam from the beginning and Allah will soften his heart to embrace Islam. Ibn Qudama says, doing the commentary in Mughni, he says, Imam Ahmad was asked about a man who embraces Islam with the condition that he would only pray 2 prayers. He said the conversion of Islam is valid and he will be accountable for 5 prayers. Conversion is valid, he's a Muslim now. You can't kill him for that. We don't kill people if they say, and the perfect example is Osama ibn Zayd. We don't know what's in people's hearts. Osama ibn Zayd killed the man who just was under the sword and he says, La ilaha illallah. And Osama killed him. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he heard it, and Osama is like Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's son. We've spoken about this. He loved him like Hassan and Hussein. Why did he love him like that? Because he's the son of Zayd ibn Harisa. Who's Zayd ibn Harisa? He's the only one he ascribed himself as his father. He's the only one. Because the other 3 children that he had with his own biological children, they all died. So the only one he said, this is my son in front of the Kaaba, is Zayd ibn Harisa. And he also married his wife as well when she was divorced. Zayd ibn Harisa's wife that was divorced, he married her. Who was that? Zainab. Zainab binti Jahash. Because see, understand, this is another tangent very quickly. We've got enough time, isn't it? It's 45 minutes. Yeah, so another tangent. That's why when you marry in your status. That marriage was never to work from the start. Because Zayd ibn Harisa was a slave. And he was also from a darker complexion as well. And Zainab was the daughter of Safiya. And she was from a family which was an elite family. And she's a cousin of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. So that sometimes marriages are not compatible. Islam allows that divorce. So also compatibility is important. So that when you like someone, you get your parents involved because they will be able to look at the compatibility as well, if it's going to work or not. And so it's important that that marriage later on did not work, and this is from the seerah that we learned. And so compatibility is again dependent Do you want a question? No. So compatibility is dependent on the family, and that's why, you know, someone always says, if someone's a Sayyid, and like we say, and if a daughter's Sayyid, always try to find someone from the family of Rasulullah in the male side, because that will be a more of a compatible match. But if the boy is from the family of Rasulullah, then he can marry outside the family, and it will be, not saying this is the only way to do it, but the scholars always say that was the safest approach as well. Okay, now moving on. Also, there's another hadith as well, which is mentioned in Abu Dawood as well. Jabir was asked about Thaqif. When he pledged allegiance, he said to set a condition to the Prophet. He said they will never pay zakat, that's the entire tribe, and they will never go to jihad. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he heard that, and he said, yes, I accept your allegiance. What did he say? He will never pay zakat. Zakat is a pillar of Islam, and he said he's not going to go in jihad as well. And when Rasulullah is commanded to go in jihad, it becomes compulsory. It's not like me and you, where we're not commanded. Umirtu, when he's commanded, the Sahaba has to go. That's why the hypocrites were unveiled in the time of which battle? Tabuk. Everyone was unveiled because they did not go. They were all worried about their harvest, plowing the seed, and not going that far. So basically, the Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali says in Jami al-Ulum wal-Hakam, which is the book where he's explaining all this, that's his word from the commentary. Okay, Imam Ahmad considered all these reports sahih and said embracing Islam with a defective condition is valid, and it clears that this applies to non-Muslims to soften their hearts towards Islam. If they're coming with these conditions, it is valid, it's fine, and that is only to soften their hearts, and it's actually helping them to soften their hearts. Now moving on, وَيُقِيمُ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُ الزَّكَاةَ فَإِذَا فَعَلُوا ذَلِكَ أَصَوْا مِنِّي دِمَاؤُهُمْ وَأَمْوَالُهُم. That's clearly with if they are doing that, then I have gained protection for their money. And so if someone's giving jizya, for example, we protect them. If someone is in treaty with us, we protect them. So if someone becomes a Muslim, we protect them. So that's all these conditions. If someone's waging war against us, there's no protection of their wealth. Or why? Because we're actually fighting them. It could be a defensive battle, it could be a offensive battle, regardless. But in all other conditions, treaties, the dhimmi, jizya, and the allies that we have, regardless of who they are, whatever their religion is, their money, they are protected. And if they are not Muslim, they don't have to establish prayer, and they don't have to give zakat as well. Okay? Now, I will not accept, I will actually not explain إِلَّا بِحَقِّ الْإِسْلَامِ. Why? Because the next hadith is about that. So I'm going to leave it for that. Okay? Well, what does that mean? It means unless they, transgress the boundaries of Allah. So transgress the boundaries of Allah for the ones who are Muslim very quickly. If someone does something wrong, according to the boundaries of Allah, even if he's praying. For example, someone used to drink in the time of Rasulullah. Rasulullah will bring him and he would order them to be flogged. If someone did zina in the time of Rasulullah, we've got the two narrations, he ordered them to be stoned. Okay, so all these narrations we find. If anyone transgressed the laws of Allah, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is actually clearly speaking about that. Also, وَحِسَابُهُمْ عَلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. If someone does all of that and is not escapes the punishment as well, and no one finds out. For example, we may have sins that we are doing and that's secretive, and in that regard we may be escaping the punishment of the government or the khilafah or whatever. In that case, then your hisab, then your account is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Regardless, so understand, everyone that sits over here, no matter what you do in your life, Allah has, the Imam read the surah, mashallah. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. So, if you do an atom worth of good, Allah will give it to you on the Day of Judgment. If you do an atom worth of sin, Allah will give that to you on the Day of Judgment as well. So it's very important, regardless of what happens in our life, the hisab is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the one who actually will bring you to an account. Now, moving on as well, just very quickly, I want to give a couple more points and then I'm done with the hadith, and then I want to go to the next topic. See, understand, Islam also, when it comes to the waging of the war, Islam came to protect 5 things in Sharia. You all know the 5 things?
Yes, please.
Yes?
Sanctity of life.
Very good. Oh, before life there is something more important.
Yeah. Religion.
Yes, very good.
Life. Wealth. Intellect. Family.
Lineage.
Lineage.
So deen, so when someone's religion is being attacked and they are Muslim, that is one of the reasons, the sanctity. So this is where Islam, you are commanded to save those people so they can actually, they can actually worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's one of the commands there. The second one is their life. When people are being persecuted and being killed, that is also a right of those Muslims to be protected. All the people, even it could not be Muslims. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he went to the battle of Fatah Makkah, that was not for the Muslims. Who was that for? The allies who were killed by Quraysh's allies. And when they were killed, that's when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to protect that sanctity, went on a war. So that's something also. Also understand mal, your money. Your money, you can all fight for your money. If you are protecting your wife, your children, and someone comes in the house, you are allowed to actually fight and to be offensive in order to take that matters in your hand also. Also, intellect. Someone is, when it comes to your intellect, it is also when people are being persecuted or being taken to the darkness, that's another way, that's another sanctity which is being taken, and you are also allowed to wage war for that. Also, nasab, lineage. This is something that we are openly now saying, which we see the agendas, the rainbow agenda and whatnot you see today. And marriages without children, without marriages and all that. As Muslims, we should raise our voice and we should speak about that. Now understand, when it comes to waging the war, when we are using the word, it does not mean that me and you are allowed to do that. The call of the war always comes from the Khalifa. If you don't have a Khalifa, then it comes from the Imam. If you don't have the Imam, not the Imam of the Masjid, okay? Not that Imam. So it comes from the Imam who's the leader, okay? That one, if you don't have that, then it's Waliul Amr, which is the leader, which is the Prime Minister or things like that, which is the leader of the country. If it's not from that, it's the Qada, the Supreme Court judge, and all these people. They're the ones who actually are the ones who call for the war. It's not, the war does not happen from the masjid, from the corners, where I'm actually taking all of you and I'm telling you that we're going to go wage war. It doesn't happen like that. That's why someone asked the question that Muslims are being butchered in Palestine. What do we do? Brothers, mine and your job is to raise awareness. If you're doing that, if you're crying in your du'as, if you're doing everything which is in your hands and you're assisting them with your money, and if you're doing all of that, Allah will not ask you even another question after that. If you're doing nothing of that and you're just sitting on your bum and you're just watching what you're watching and enjoying your life, you are accountable for that. So Hadeeth clearly says, if you can change, فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ And if you do not have the power to change with your hands, then you do it with your mouth. We live in a country that we're allowed to speak freely, but that freedom also comes with calculations, also comes with respect as well, that we do not go and belittle other people and start ridiculing other people. We go and we use our tongues in the most appropriate manner. We use it with wisdom. We call out, we make sure our words are calculated. That's why we do not, they always call us anti-Semitic. That's why we need to be very careful the words that we're using for these perpetrators as well. We use the word Zionism. We use these words. We call them out. We do not be quiet. So these are the things that we should be very careful, okay? So when it comes to the answer, it's a clear answer. Me and you, we have limited means. But the means that we have is raising awareness, that we have to do that. And the means that you have nowadays is people go and protest and things like that. SubhanAllah, I was teaching year 12. And do you know where the protest actually came from? It was a bid'ah that was started by Martin Luther. Prior to that, no one actually knew about protest. Martin Luther had two things: protest and reform. So how did he bring reformation? He brought it by protest. And that was the system that was designed by the Lutherans. And they're the ones who actually designed the system, and that became a norm. In Islam, there was never about protest. You clearly saw, if someone came and they were offensive towards Muslims, we did not go and protest. We united under the banner of Islam, and we went and we fought them. And that's how it was done. It was under the Khalifa, it was under that. Protest was something which, if you pick up the books of the history, prior to that, there was no protest. The mass protest that was done was actually done by, that's why they were called Protestants. You had the Catholics, you had the Orthodox, and you had the Protestants. That was their name as well. So actually came from there. Anyways, also understand it's also a command of Allah to fight, and jihad can be defensive, and jihad can also be offensive. We should never be scared of this word. That's why Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, he abrogated jihad. Do you know, in the Qadiani sect, don't call them Ahmadis, alright? Why? Because it feels good for them, they call them that. Call them Qadianis, the way it is. Okay? That man abrogated jihad. He was backed by Victoria, Queen Victoria. He was backed by her, and he said jihad is only with the pen. MashaAllah. That's what he said. That's in his books. We are not shying away from jihad. Jihad is part of our religion. But understand that we are also not saying, it's like you've got, every country has an army. It's exactly like jihad's part of American Constitution. You know, Bush said that, I will drive them to the gates of hell. That's Bush's statement when he was coming to Afghanistan. So that's embedded in their constitution. Everyone has a right to defend. So why are Muslims then scared to say that? We're not. We live over here. We're like the Zimmis. We live over here. We, respect the constitution. Yeah. Every time people actually use a phrase, and they always say that we have to obey, we're obeying the Kafir law. So we're doing this, we're doing that. I ask people, if you really are following Islam, the next time don't stop at the red traffic light, because that's the Kafir law as well. That's the Kafir law. I'm actually being very honest. You want to take the dole from the Kafir and not go to work. Why? Because that's your right. You want to stop at the red traffic light. Why? Because you don't want the fine. But then every other law that you do not like is Kafir law. You know, the rights that we have over here, you try that and go and speak the way I am speaking in your country. You disappear. Something that comes to mind very quickly, D Chowk in Pakistan, in Islamabad, where people were butchered. You know, we actually speak about, sometimes we do not want to speak about our own people. The people were killed. More than 200 people were killed, brutally murdered. Shots fired on them. They were only there for protest. Do I agree with protest? No, I don't. No, I've got my own thing, and I don't want to go and take another half an hour to explain to you why I don't agree with the protest. But they were there. They were asking for something. They want to bring their leader back. SubhanAllah, sometimes I also look at the Pakistanis, I say, SubhanAllah, you want Imran Khan and you love Pakistan so much, but you're not going to go and raise your children over there. You've got your $1 million properties over here, but then you want to, go at the Canberra embassy as well. You want to protest outside there as well. But then when someone will tell you, if Imran Khan, your leader, will tell you, now leave your passports and come back and make this country, you're going to say, Imran Khan, you know what, I've got a good life, Imran Khan. You fix the country. You know, I'm a Pakistani only by name, but I like the Australian passport that allows me to travel everywhere. That's how we are. You know, we really like that. We love our country so much, but we're not going to raise even our child for 2 months over there. We want them to have Western education, but then we love our country. I'm going to ask you next time, you love your country, you rip your passport, the Australian or the British passport that you may have, and have the green Pakistani passport. Do you know it's the top 5 worst passports in the world? You can only go to 2 countries without visa. Only 2 countries. Out of 160, 70 countries of the world, you can only go to 2 countries. Sri Lanka recently put a visa on us as well. You can't go to Sri Lanka now without visa as well. So visa-free entry, and Pakistani passports kind of banned in UAE anyways. You can't go to UAE nowadays. They've actually put a blanket ban on Pakistanis. You can't come over there. You don't get any visas now to go to UAE, because they were doing like a begging racket over there. So they were going there on the visas, and they were begging money on the streets, and they were caught, and they had hundreds of people doing that. So UAE actually put a blanket ban on Pakistanis. So any new people going from Pakistan, they don't get visas now. So my advice, see, I brought that. This is okay. Well, they were innocent people. They were protesting. Yes, we should speak up for that. But I sometimes feel my country people, they get too carried away. Too carried away. They don't want to invest their life in Pakistan. Sometimes you look at all these, mashallah, with all due respect, and that's why people sometimes call me, I'm a racist. I'm not a racist. Look, I live in this country. This is my country. I'm growing my children over here. I'm actually going to make them the way it is. My children have never been to Pakistan. The last time I went to Pakistan was 18 years ago. I don't even know how it looks like now. So for me to go on a protest, I might go on a protest to Albanese's house and say, this is my right as a Muslim, that my children get Islamic education in Islamic schools and they don't get any rainbow agenda. That's my agenda, because I'm growing my children over here. Yes, if I see Muslim countries which are dying and something like Islamabad, I would speak for that. Why? Why would I speak for that? Because I know the Muslims are being killed over there. And they were innocent people. You know, we speak about that. I am giving you a conservative number. Some people are saying more than 400 people died. Just one night. As soon as the sun went down, I don't know if it was the army or what. I don't exactly don't know, but they said it was the army. They came and they just opened fire. It was open season, and whoever came in front, they all got killed, because they wanted to actually disperse people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for us, and whatever we've learned today, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to implement that in our lives. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala this Hadeeth Arbaeen gathering, Ya Allah, make it from the blessed gatherings as well. And Ya Allah, unite us in Jannah. And Ya Allah, also make us from the ones who implement with the words of Rasulullah in our lives. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for the Ummah. The Ummah is in a difficulty, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring an ease and to bring security and to bring safety to this entire Ummah. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Bi rahmatika arhamar rahimin.